time with all the other athletes and seeing their passion and their efforts.
You were in the village. That had to be so cool.
Michael Jordan just destroyed Anthony Edwards on camera. Anthony Edwards sat on a podcast, admitted he never watched the tape, and then told the world that an entire generation of basketball legends had no skill. Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Hakeem Olajuwon, Isaiah Thomas, all of them dismissed in 10 seconds, and then Michael Jordan heard it. Jordan didn't post on social media. He didn't send a statement through a publicist. He didn't ask for an apology. He went on camera, spoke in complete sentences, and took Edwards apart so precisely and so calmly that people are still rewinding the clip to catch everything he said. This wasn't a beef. This was a correction, and the difference between those two things is exactly what this entire story is about. But to understand why Jordan's response hit as hard as it did, you have to go back to the original comment, not the headline version, not the clipped version, but the full thing. Because what Edwards said wasn't just an opinion, it was a confession. Anthony Edwards was on a podcast when the conversation turned to historical players, and Edwards, confident and unbothered, said something that immediately spread across every basketball platform on the internet. His words were, "I don't think anybody had skill back then. Michael Jordan was the only one." Now on the surface, that sounds like a player hyping up Jordan while dismissing everyone else. But pay attention to the list of names he was erasing with that one sentence. He was talking about Larry Bird, a player who won 3 consecutive MVP awards from 1984 to 1986. He was talking about Magic Johnson, a player who won 5 championships and 3 finals MVP awards. He was talking about Hakeem Olajuwon, a player whose footwork in the post is still used as a teaching tool by coaches across the NBA today. He was talking about Isaiah Thomas, a player who led the Detroit Pistons to back-to-back championships in 1989 and 1990 and was named Finals MVP both times. All Hall of Famers, all champion, all dismissed with one sentence. But here's the part that made everything worse. Edwards admitted openly without hesitation that he had never actually watched the footage. He passed judgment first and planned to do the research never. He didn't say he watched and disagreed. He said he hadn't watched and still concluded they had no skill. That detail is not a minor footnote. That detail is the entire story. Because the argument stops being about basketball the moment you realize that Edwards was not evaluating players he had studied. He was evaluating players he had never seen. And Jordan caught that, and Jordan didn't let it go. Here's what separates Michael Jordan's response from every other generational debate you've watched play out on the internet. He didn't fight with words, he didn't get emotional. He didn't appeal to his own legacy as a shield. He fought with information. Jordan was already talking about Edwards before the comments even went fully viral. He was on the phone with Minnesota Timberwolves executives, not to complain, not to vent, but because Jordan studies the league the way a chess player studies the board. He was already analyzing Edwards as a player before Edwards handed him the opening to say what he actually thought. And when Jordan did speak publicly, he made a specific technical argument. He pointed to the double team. The double team is not a complicated concept. When a defense sends 2 defenders at the ball handler is supposed to recognize it, make the right read, and find the open man. It is one of the first things coaches teach. It is one of the most basic tests of basketball intelligence at the professional level. Jordan said on camera, clearly, without hesitation, that Anthony Edwards could not solve it. The player who had just dismissed an entire generation of skilled basketball players as unskilled was struggling with one of the most fundamental defensive strategies in the game. And then Jordan used a specific word to describe the double team. He called it simple. He didn't say it was difficult. He didn't say it required elite processing. He called it simple on camera, knowing the world would replay the clip. That single word did more damage than any insult could have. But Jordan didn't stop there. He made a broader argument, one that goes beyond Anthony Edwards as an individual player. He talked about what happens when players receive their rewards before they've done the work to earn them. Brand deals before championships. Maximum contracts before consistent playoff performances. Public hype before hunger. His exact words on the state of the game were pointed and deliberate. He said the game was being cheated, not by bad players, not by weak athletes, but by a structure that delivers the external markers of success before the internal foundation to support them is ever built. This is where the conversation has to move beyond Edwards specifically, because Jordan's criticism wasn't personal. It was systemic. Michael Jordan had a clause written into his contract called the Love of the Game clause. What that clause did was allow him to play pickup basketball anywhere on the planet at any time and still receive his full salary if he was injured during those sessions. The Chicago Bulls were not happy about it. The league wasn't thrilled either, but Jordan demanded it because he needed to play, not for publicity, not for content. His basketball was not a job to him, it was a compulsion. Nobody put a camera on him for those pickup games. Nobody was building a brand around them. He played in random gyms with random people because removing basketball from his life, even partially, was not something he was willing to do. The clause wasn't a negotiating tactic. It was a document that reflected who he actually was. Compare that to how elite players in today's NBA approach the game. Individual trainer sessions filmed for social media. Workout clips posted during the off-season. Skills development measured not just by improvement but by how the content performs online. None of that is inherently wrong, but it is different, and Jordan is asking whether what gets lost in that difference is the very thing that made the previous generation what it was. Jordan earned brand Jordan by destroying the NBA for over a decade first. 6 championships, 6 finals MVP awards. A level of sustained dominance so complete that the brand wasn't built alongside the success, it was built because of it. The success came first, and it was overwhelming enough that everything else followed. Edwards earned his platform by being one of the most exciting players in the league right now. He is explosive, he is charismatic, he draws attention naturally. But Jordan is making it clear without any ambiguity that excitement on a basketball court and dominance on a basketball court are two different things, and that the system that surrounds today's players makes it easier to mistake one for the other. Kevin Garnett said something in this same conversation that deserves to sit next to Jordan's comments. His words were, "This generation couldn't have played 20 years ago," and he wasn't vague about it. He named specific players, Jason Tatum, Anthony Edwards, and said the game they're celebrated for today would not have produced the same results in a different era. Garnett is not a man who trades in nostalgia. He is a man who played in both worlds, who survived the brutality of the 1990s NBA, and who is making a structural argument, not an emotional one. This is not two old men wishing the past back. This is two men who lived in a specific environment, describing what that environment demanded and asking whether today's environment demands the same thing. Now we get to the part of this story that should have made Anthony Edwards want to go back and watch the tape before he ever opened his mouth on a podcast. Larry Bird. If you want to understand what skill looked like in the generation Edwards dismissed, start here. Not because Bird was the most athletic player. Not because he was the fastest or the most physically dominant. Start here because Bird represents something specific, the ability to beat you, tell you in advance that he was going to beat you, and then do it in real time to your face. Here is the first story. Bird is in the corner. Before the ball even comes to him, he tells the defender guarding him exactly where he's going to shoot from. He names the spot. The defender knows it's coming. The crowd can see what's about to happen. Bird catches the ball, rises up, and hits the shot. The defender, according to the account of that moment, said, "I ain't gonna mess with you no more." That is not luck. That is not athleticism overcoming a defender. That is the product of thousands of hours of repetition so deep that Bird could afford to eliminate the element of surprise and still win the exchange. Here is the second story, and this one is more specific. Game on the line. 5 seconds left on the clock. Bird announces out loud to the people around him exactly where he's going to hit the shot from. He catches the ball, hits it, and the game is effectively over. But then, and this is the detail that defines Bird, he apologizes. Not for winning, for leaving 2 seconds on the clock because he wanted a buzzer beater. He didn't want to leave any margin at all. He was annoyed with himself for being 2 seconds too early. Read that again. He was annoyed that he hit the game-winning shot with 2 seconds remaining instead of at the buzzer. Here's the third story. A rookie comes into the league. Bird finds him on the floor, calls him home. His word for rookies he hadn't bothered to learn the names of, and tells him precisely how many points